Good morning, everybody. My name is Woong Bahng, and I'm from Sunni Korea. And I'm very much delighted to have this time with all of you together. Probably you may not know me so well, but many of your names are familiar to me because I have been purchasing that what you're doing, and I have been interested in the water for many years. And I very much do appreciate for the invitation from the Dr. Lab to have an opportunity to share all of the information that I have until this time. The title of my presentation is about the structured water and its effect on the cell proliferation rate. The contents is like this: introduction on the energy source and properties of the energy and effect on the cell proliferation rate. This is a raw material that we have used for the production of the powder, and it is a typical feldspar family of clay minerals with a major composition of the silica, aluminum, and iron oxide. And the manufacturing process is like this. The raw material is ground down to 320 mesh powder with ball and heat treated at 800 degrees C for an hour, and then fermented at room temperature for more than 30 days. And drying at room temperature at temperatures higher than 200 degrees C. And the final product is the ceramic powder combined with carbon. Carbon is the standard for the quantum energy living body, and it's a kind of the somatic that we think. And at this time, because of the time limit of my presentation, I skip about this. And later, I hope that I could have other opportunity to present about this. And this carbon can be separated in gel state, and the final product is the gel state material. So we have two kinds of the final product. And this powder can be processed further to make the ceramic ball. And this slide shows the outline of the manufacturing process, and the final product is the powder and the ceramic ball. And these materials have been registered in the ICID, International Cosmetic Ingredient Dictionary, published by the Personal Care Product Council, and registered as quantum energy radiation powder. And also, this material was registered in the US FDA as a Class 1 medical device in January of the last year, for the items, the belt, quilt, clothes, guard, ring balls, necklace, bracelet, and powder. In November, it was registered as OTC drug. OTC means that over the counter, so that you can purchase the drug at the drugstore without any prescription of the doctor. So it had been described as having a function of the immunity improvement and health food, and feed additive, fertilizer additive can be used as. And in December, also it was registered for the ceramic balls. It's the safety and the water treated with ceramic balls as a drinking water. So the record means that the safety and the non-toxic properties of the materials have been proved. And this is the scanning electron microscopic observation on the surface of the particle. And you see that there are many dust-like small particles on the surface, and it's typical observation of the natural powders. And particle size analysis based on the traditional process shows that its particle size is about 1 micrometer in the center line. But if the other technique, like aerosol-based technology, is applied, the particle size shows that about tenths of the nanometer size. It's very, very small size. One of the very striking features of this powder is that its jet potential is very high, minus 37.74 millivolts, without any special treatment for the flame powders showing this much high jet potential is unusual. This means that this powder is very hydrophilic. In other words, this material is very high polarity, like naphthalene film. So we have tried to observe its energetic properties by using UV or IRs. start. It's a UV vis spectroscopy of water mixed with powder itself. And you see that from the 400 nanometer to 600 nanometers wavelengths of the UV is absorbed by this water mixed with the powder. And the centrifuged for 30 minutes at 3000 RPM shows that slowly lowering down the absorption peaks with a little bump on these 270 nanometers or so. Because I paid attention on this wavelength because most of you are interested in this wavelength because the structured water reported that to absorb 270 nanometer range. And I applied this technique for the water mixed with gel. And the mixed state showed that almost a similar state as before. But for the supernatant water shows that clear 270 nanometer peak. So it's a very interesting feature. And I tried to apply the fluorescence spectrum analysis to observe if there are any fluorescent properties on the materials. And 220 nanometers wavelengths of the excitation region was used for the excitation. And I found that 370 to 375, around 370 nanometer emission wavelength was observed. This is the harmony wavelength, so it's really induced by the excitation wavelength. So the meaningful peak is here. For the fine powder, again, the emission peaks are 370 nanometers observed. Another interesting feature of this powder is that it shows the thermal imaging, the infrared radiation. It was observed by the thermal imaging analysis, and the chemical powder's temperature was compared with the silica, natural silica powder at room temperature, and you can see that chemical powder shows higher temperature, like 0.6 degrees C, 0.2 or 0.4 degrees C. So this slide shows the actual photograph that was taken at the infrared imaging for the range 7.5 micrometer to 13 micrometer. So from these results, we can assume that this ceramic absorbs the ultraviolet rays and then irradiates the radiation in the infrared range, wave range. And we tried to measure the water temperature just above the powders to compare if there any difference. And starting from the morning to afternoon, and the room temperature has been changing like this, but the water temperature just above the Kelvin powder shows higher temperature by 0.5 degrees C compared to control, and also it was temperature higher than the control, the silica powders. So that the emission of the infrared ray is not only in the instantaneous, but it's continuous rate shows the higher temperature. And so second step was that what is the properties of this energy that we have tried to measure? The first thing that we observed that it shows the anti-aging, the anti-oxidation property. Where the simple experiment that we put the nails, iron nails, in the salt water mixed with carbon and the silica with the salt water and the salt waters, and we compared on the oxidation. And after 4 days later, carbon plus mixed salt water shows the lowest amount of the scales. The iron oxide, the brown color indicates the iron oxide, and the severe photograph. And also we tried to have an experiment that whether this effect is also occurred for the organic materials. because we did the test with inorganic materials. So we choose the bean sprout for the test of the anti-oxidation test. And the distilled water was mixed with carrier powder and silica and the distilled water only. And after 140 hours later, the bean sprout color had been changed like this. For the silica mixed with distilled water and distilled water, but the bean sprout in the carrier mixed water did not change the color. So it means that the two bean sprouts in the silica and distilled water show the faster oxidation. And so that the carrier shows the retardation of the oxidation. It means that anti-oxidative property it had. And this is shows the actual the photograph that compared. You see that this before and after distilled water had been changed, and silica also the color had been changed, but the bean sprouts in the carrier mixed water did not change much. To obtain the quantitative data, we tried to measure the biopotent emission of the bean sprout. And as it was reported yesterday or the day before yesterday, that when electron is discharging, light is coming off. I don't remember but as you see, the paraquat is a strong oxidant, and so that the biopotent emission is very high. But when really mixed with catechin, it's an antioxidant that is obtained from the green tea. Then it shows that lower the emission of the biopotent emission, so that we can apply this technology to evaluate the effect of the carrier powder waters on the oxidation. And actually, after 7 days later, the biopotent emission from this carrier mixed water shows the lowest level of the biopotent emission. So it means that it really has the antioxidative properties. And you see that Dr. Pollack reported that the structured water is formed in the charged battery in water, and it means that negative potential is developed and it can play a role for the antioxidation properties. So based on this theory, I tried to measure the water charge, the generation of the structured water. Here, this Napion film is attached on this wall, and you know that the Napion film is very well-known membrane for the proton, so that it can be used as a wall separating the two cells, like here. And so I put in this ceramic board on the right-hand side, and the right-hand side is a negative, it's cathode. It means that negative charges are generated. So about minus 17.2 millivolt was absorbed, and the current was about 2.9 microamperes. At this time, I just measured the voltage and the current, but it clearly indicated that the structured water generates the electricity. And I did the test with the powder. So 1% of the powder, the tap water is 500 grams, also shows that this side, already shows the negative, the cathode side. So from this result, we can think that the water is structured and it has a high level of the antioxidant property because of the generation of the charge. And from here, the important point, the difference between for the experiment that had been done until this time and from this time is that these experiments had been done in non-contact manner. It means that the effect is solely by the energies coming out from the material itself, the carrier materials. So at first, I tried to measure what happened on the water by the non-contact manner treatment. First, the water in a vial is placed just above this powder. And so that is a non-contact manner, so only energy generated from this powder affects the water structures. And I observed that the oxidation reduction potential of the water was reduced from 50 millivolt to 10 millivolt. It lowered down. It means that the reductive power of the water has been increased. And I repeat the same experiment by non-contact manner for the bean sprout. So in the glass tube, there is bean sprout inside the glass tube. There is a bean sprout with distilled water, and the 3 glass tubes have been prepared, and each of them is placed in the carry with distilled water and silica in this salt water and distilled water only, so that if there is anything happen, then it means that it has been caused by the energy coming out from the carry or silica or distilled water or so. After 6 days later, surprisingly, the bean sprout in the glass tube placed in the silica mixed water or distilled water shows that it's softened, but it was not so to the carry. So I tried the measurement using the photomultiplier tube to measure the biophoton emission, and the carry powder treated shows that the lowest level of the biophoton emission. It means that even in non-contact manner, the antioxidative property was observed. And this slide shows the experiment that had been done for the measurement on the physical properties of the water treated in non-contact manner. And there was no difference in the boiling point or freezing point for the before and after, but treated after for 48 hours, the density of the water had been increased from 922 to 923, and specific heat also had been increased to 4.2.55 to 4.289, and also surface tension had been increased also 58.32 to 60.46. All of these property changes mean that the water had been structured, because it is in line in the same trend, like a higher density, higher specific heat, higher surface tension. But for the electric conductivity, it has been reduced to 0.7 to 0.6. And I think that this is somehow related with the dielectric constant of the water. I have measured the dielectric constant of the water at 10 kilohertz, the frequency at room temperature. And before the treatment, the dielectric constant was observed to be 81.1. And after 10 days, 84.2, and 17 days later, 87.3. It's very surprising data, because for the water, dielectric constant having this kind of the high content, the value has never been reported before. And since the dielectric constant is the Q divided by V, so increased C, the dielectric constant, indicates that increase of the charge capacity. And I think that this is due to the separation of the proton ion and the electron caused by the water structure. So the structured water shows the electric constant properties also is changing. And this slide is one of the very important and very interesting observation that I tried the ice structure using the jet freezing equipment, the cryo-scanning electron microscope, and the cryo field emission scanning electron microscope, which had some high vacuum cryo transfer system, and it had a freeze fracture etching coating in one unit system. So I can freeze the water into ice very quickly at liquid nitrogen temperature, and then it can be etched at minus 110 degrees C and coated, and can be observed at minus 120 degrees C. So without any giving perturbation on the ice structure, I can observe it. And surprisingly, distilled water shows no difference, just a flat surface. The scale bar on the left is 10 micrometers, and the right one is 1 micrometer. So right-hand column is 10 times the higher magnification. And for the water, non-contact treated shows the very interesting features like this. Some are like these bright white areas And this image looks like very much quite similar to the mitochondrial cells. But this white color, it means that the origin of the water of this ice, the origin of the ice, the original water of this ice has high density. So probably it comes from the structured water. And the ordinary waters is in between the structured waters. And for the waters that is directly mixed with quantum powder, Kelvin powder, mixed and then left for 51 hours, and the supernatant was used for the observation. And the ice structure is quite similar with both the non-contact treated one, but the domain size is smaller than this. So someone like the ice shows some fractal shape. And also, I think that in this case, the possibility of is that the mineral content is there is left even if it is a supernatant, and it provides some kind of the embryo state for the formation of the ice. And I tried to observe other areas and where this is not the cross-cut, but it somehow is the fractured surface. This slide shows the three-dimensional view of the ice rather than the straight cut. And you see that it's very much somewhat like a sponge-like morphology, and the structured water is forming the wall. So we propose that it's a new proposal on the water structure, three-dimensional mosaic fractal structure of the water. So I named it as a Woong Bahng model of the water structure. And it shows that so far we have been thinking that the structured water is somehow like in cluster shape or something like that. But in this case, it clearly shows that in the reverse state, that means the structured water forms somehow the wall, and high proton ions located inside of each cells, and electrons are concentrated on the dense wall structure where water is structured. And this is probably because the dielectric constant has been increased because of the separation of the charges like this. And we observed a very interesting phenomenon that the gas in the water is also excluded from the water, and it is structured. You see that this the bubble is observed when we place the water into this ceramic powder for over 1 day, and then the bubbles are forming in here. But if we remove this bubble and then place it again for more than a day or so, it doesn't happen. So it means that the gas state in the gases in the water molecules were excluded out from the easy water, and particles are excluded from the easy water. And we proved this is water with the ceramic balls, and the gas molecules are expelled out very abruptly, like this, so that we can see that most of the gases are also expelled out from this water. Okay, so what's next? What is the effect of the structured water on life? So to observe it, I tried this effect on the cell proliferation rate and mitochondria membrane cell potential. And first, I tried to observe the effect of the structured water on the cell proliferation rate. And this slide shows the procedures that I have used. This is a Kelvin powder in here, and the 10 milliliters of the DMEM. DMEM is a tuberculous medium that is widely used for the culture of the cells. And 0.1 gram of the Kelvin powder is mixed with DMEM medium. And it kept in a refrigerator for 2 days, and then suspended layer was used for preparations, like here, with the different concentrations, like this. 0, 50, 100, 200 micrograms per milliliter. And at the same time, LPS treated specimen was prepared. This was prepared for the negative control. And then it was incubated, and CC8 HKA solution were added to increase further, and a laser reader was used to measure the proliferation rate. The absorbance was measured. Okay, I'll try to finish it. Change password. Okay, so surprisingly, phagocytic activity has been increased from compared to the 100 to 150%. It's very surprising feature. And for the natural killer NK cell, it's also increased from 5 almost 4 times. And spleen cell proliferation rate also increased. And cancer cell decreased. It's very interesting feature of this material, of this water. And in this case, there may be an argument that somehow even small amount of the minerals is left in the water that may play that kind of the activities. So I did the test again with the indirect treatment of the water. There is no way of the contamination of the water. The water is just left above this powder for 2 days or 4 days, that's it. So we can assume that this water is clearly distilled water without having any mineral components or so. And then we compared this non-contact treated water, and you see this macrophage cell has been increased, and for other 3 kinds of the cells shows the same tendency of the increased proliferation rate. So we can say that the structured water is really very effective or very helpful for them to maintain their health while they activating the cell metabolism. And I did the test, how many hours of the exposure is necessary for the water to be structured and effective. And even 6 hours was enough. And I think that most of you know where the citric acid cycle is being done, and the electron transport system is a major part of this citric acid cycle. And the proton and electron is a driving force, but it's not so well known where is the source of the proton and electrons for to operate this electron transport system. Even in the textbook, the proton is said that there are abundant amount of the protons in the water, so that it is supplied from that the cytoplasm or so. It's not so clear descriptions. I think that the proton and electrons are generated and supplied from the water, which is structured. So I also thought that probably the mitochondrial membrane potential could be increased by these procedures as we did in the same process. So I did the indirect treatment while culturing, and the mitochondrial membrane cell potential was measured using the TMRE. FCCCP is a negative control. And 48 hours, 72 hours for the HD11 cells, it clearly shows that MMP has been increased. And for the HeLa cell also showed the increased MMPs. So it means that by non-contact procedures, this cell also metabolism can be improved by increased the MMPs. As some examples before closing my presentation, it's a bed sore. We applied this string powders for the bed sore treatment, and clearly dermal cells from the lowest level of the layer of the skin had been regenerated. I think that it is very important, and so far it has been the approach to explain this phenomenon through the molecular biology, but I think that in our case, we may think about from the point of view of the electrical point of view. The body electric in the book written by Becker, it has been described that regeneration is occurred through the de-differentiation, and the electric potential and the custom is essential for regeneration. So I think that if we apply this kind of the technology, then the surface or the cells can be de-differentiate and regenerate the cells. So this is probably the mechanism for the regeneration of the cell. So structured water is very important, not only supplying the power for the operation of metabolism, but the regeneration is also essential. And other examples for rice field application, the greenhouse covered water becomes very much clear water surface. And the most recent experiment that we have obtained, wastewater treatment for cow barn. And from left is the pure mineral water, and wastewater, USAB treated water, and gravity treated water is the far right hand one. Compared to the USAB technology, the COD has been improved, total nitrogen, ammonia, and total phosphorus is not satisfactory. But the important point is that for chemical process is very simple. Just pour the powder 50 ppm amount of powder 2 times, just weight it as is. No more necessary action is necessary. Very simple and very effective. Okay, so the conclusion is the new paradigm in water science and technology. And so a new model of the water structure was proposed, PBL model of the water structure, sponge-like morphology with structured water forming the wall. And formation of the structured water is possible not only by direct contact from the effluent, but also by indirect contact by the energy. And mineral component may provide the embryo site for the formation of the structured water in the case of the non-contact process. And energy from UV to IR and water are essential for life. The energy supply from the structured water and membrane potential can be an indicator of the health. And so carbon is the approachable mechanism proposed for life metabolism is that is structured water formation, potential generation, and activation of the cell metabolism and improvement of the blood flow. This one I'll provide you later. Okay, thank you for your attention.